Hi, it's Mike Stevenson here. Today in the video, we're going to talk about a solution built with API management where we're going to allow apps to integrate with our help desk application in the IT department. So with API management, we're going to show how you can use Serverless 360 BAM to give visibility of some of the API operations. So if we think about where in your architecture you might use API management, so there's a number of different scenarios. If you're building an Azure integration solution, so API management is probably going to be a really core part of your platform. So you would use that to expose services that you might build with Logic Apps or Azure Functions to external parties. You might also use it to proxy applications that you integrate with. So maybe you've got some on-premise applications you go through a VNet. You might have SaaS applications you want to integrate with, and you can basically centralize all of that API traffic with API management. So you can get this sort of single area all your traffic goes through, and it gives you some good governance and centralization there. The other things you might be doing are if you're building an API you're going to expose to other people. So it might be the case that you build with app service or functions or something like that would have the custom code for your API. You might expose that through API management. So you've got that, that kind of developer friendly interface for people to learn how to use your API. You might even put front door in front of it. It's quite a common thing. And for the back end, people are often using things like Cosmos and storage. So there's just two example architectures where API management will participate. I'm sure there's many more than just that. Now, if we think about Serverless 360 for a moment, so the common problem people have, whether they're building Azure integration solutions, building custom APIs, is the support. Azure provides a great platform to build your solution, but when it comes to running it, the problem is due to lack of experience, complexity, and lack of visibility, all of your support cases tend to escalate to your developers and Azure experts because they're the ones who can do something with them. It's very difficult to allow other people to participate in your solution. The burden of that support overhead means that it's difficult for developers to focus on building new functionality and adding new value to the business because as time goes on, they end up doing more support. So the use case for Serverless 360 involves four modules. So we have business applications where we try to allow your support team to participate in managing your Azure components. We take away some of the complexity, provide a support user-friendly view, and allow them to do many of the common tasks. We also have Cost Analyzer, where we're trying to help you build a cost-focused culture so that you can manage the money that you spend and try and be efficient. We have Documenter to generate documentation to help with governance and compliance requirements. And then today we're talking about business activity monitoring, where we want to focus on managing the business function and the business process rather than just the technical components. So this is where we're going to allow people like business super users to see what's going on and potentially participate in it. The idea of that then is once we've got those modules, we start shifting support left. We allow support level 2 and level 1 to do more through the business activity monitoring feature. And then we allow level 1 users and business super users to use business activity monitoring, which allows them to do things like managing an order or managing an invoice rather than managing a technical component. And that's the use case or the value proposition that Serverless 360 tries to promote. So when it comes to BAM, we have a number of features. So you send data to our BAM API, and that opens up the opportunity to do a bunch of advanced features. So we've got track and trace, so you can look for business transactions based on business values. You can see how far through the process they are. You can build dashboards and monitoring capability to help you develop a good solution to manage your business process. So in the example today, we're looking at a scenario where we've got an IT help desk system and we want to outsource to a third party some of our IT help desk support. So we want to focus our users on our level 3. So we've got our experienced people who know how to support the system, but we want to outsource level 1 and 2 to a third party and allow them to integrate with our help desk applications, so we can focus on sort of focus our value on our high experienced people for our internal systems and the day-to-day kind of triage of common help desk calls that can be resolved quickly. We want to outsource that and try and lower our costs. So we need to let that third party system integrate with our help desk system, and we need to be able to give people visibility of how this synchronization's going, so we know whether the system's working well. We're also going to build, if you take a look at the next slide, you can see we're going to build some applications as well. So this bit here is the third party sync process. They're going to have some solution in their business that they call our API, and they can update tickets and check the status of them and stuff like that. But also internally, we want our users to be able to use Teams apps and mobile devices. So we might build apps here to make it easy for people to self-service. So we can let them see what their tickets are doing, they can log tickets and that kind of thing. So it's all about providing a better experience for users who need help, and also offloading some of the low value support tickets to a third party. And then our level 3 person over here, they can use the IT help desk application for tickets that get escalated and need internal expertise. They can deal with that kind of thing in the app, but these tickets may have been created in one of a number of ways. Now, the key resource that allows this is API management. So this would be our help desk application here. It has a web service, and we want to use API management to expose access to that web service for different partners. So in API management, we might transform the data a little bit. We'll certainly allow different applications to have different authentication mechanisms. And the challenge we have is this synchronization process. So if you're the help desk manager, how do you know everything's working correctly in terms of synchronization? If one of these applications, say the Teams app, has a problem creating a ticket, how would you know about it? So what we're able to do by sending events from our API management to BAM, some of these common things that these applications might do, we might want to log it so it's visible who created a ticket when, if there was a problem creating that ticket, and let us do some kind of monitoring and management of those processes. Over here in the Serverless 360 portal, we go into the BAM area, and you can see that I've modeled my business processes here. So we're in the IT department, and we're looking at our help desk API. Now straight away you'll see the tracking data will come up here to show us what's been processed recently. You can see we've had a bunch of transactions that have gone through. I think I've got a logic app that just simulates some data for this demo, so we get about one every hour creating a new help desk ticket. Now, if I look at one of the recent tickets, if I click on it, you can see we've gone through a number of stages here. So we get the first stage is where the ticket's received. So this would be where one of the applications requests to log a ticket, and then we can see the tickets created, and then we can see the tickets closed at the end. Now, this models the long-running process where at some point in the future the ticket might be closed, normally a couple of hours later, I think, in the Logic app. So if I click on the ticket received, we can see that started at 4:43, and you can see here, here's the headers that came in. So because we're logging the BAM event from the API, I can send a whole bunch of HTTP headers to BAM that might be useful for troubleshooting and seeing what's going on. So you can actually see that that's my Logic app that simulates the test data here. And in this case, I've chosen to archive a message body. So this is the request to log a new ticket. So that would come in, and then we have the ticket created. So we can see the response message where we say, yep, thanks, the ticket's created. So that would be one synchronous API call where we're logging the request and the response. And then at some future point, we might also have a close ticket request. So you can see here's the message that we logged from the request to close it, and the confirmation that it was closed by the help desk system. So that's the runtime view. So I can create queries and sort of grids here that make it easy for me to see what's going on. So you can see I've got everything from my B2B partner to my help desk app. I've got the ID for the ticket. They're all logged as me for the demo purposes, but you can see they all take about 2 hours to complete because the Logic app logs a ticket, waits a while, and then closes it. Now, in the transaction designer, this is where I can customize what this looks like. So I've created a number of API management steps here. So I would just add a stage and say, it's a test stage. Where does it execute at? So I can just choose one of the options here, and then I can configure some properties. So the inbound message, let's say we've got a user ID. I can say the user ID would come from a message body at the JSON path $user, or I could configure that to come from a header, or it could be a constant value. So there's a number of options about how you can promote data that's sent to BAM to be in the grids and be searchable and that kind of thing. Okay, so that's how you would design a transaction. Let's have a look at API management now and have a look how we would send the data. So we've got our API here for the external help desk proxy. We've got an operation to create a ticket, and then all I'm doing is in the policy for processing that API, I can do this send request policy. So here I can say send a new request to another system on the inbound policy to make the API call, and then make the body save to that variable. So all I'm doing is I'm just setting values for my BAM API. I'll set the headers, so I can set the key for it. I can set the properties to say, do I want to archive it? What process does it map to? What stage does it map to? And then down here, this is where we set the body for the call to BAM. So here this is the bit where I'm adding all of the HTTP headers that came inbound, except the authorization header or the subscription key. We'll ignore them, but everything else will forward to BAM. I can also forward some API management sort of metadata, so you can get from the context which API, which operation. I can get the ticket ID, so that's the one we promote to be in the BAM view, and then I can also include the request body here, and then I'll just set that body, and API management will send that to BAM for me. And then so we go further down. We can then on the outbound request, we can send another message to BAM. So this is the second one where it says confirm we've created the ticket. So that'll update BAM to say the ticket was successfully created, and it's exactly the same. We're just using the send request policy. On the closed ticket, we do the same. So when the third party calls us, we'll just log the request. So here we're using the checkpoint with correlation, and we're going to correlate further down based on the ticket ID. So you can see here we've used this ID property. We've set it from the ticket ID here. That'll go to BAM, and it'll match this request to the one that the transaction that was created when we created the ticket, and then that'll basically go through, and we'll do an update when this ticket's successfully closed, just to confirm in BAM that the transaction's finished successfully. So what that means is over in BAM, we start getting the tracking data that we were seeing before, so we can see each of these steps has gone through fine. We then open up features like action required, so if there'd been any errors, these would show up in the action required tab, and we can treat this like a to-do list of errors that we haven't yet sorted out, so you can either ignore them or you could resubmit them. So one example might be if a request to create a ticket failed, we could resubmit that potentially to the API from BAM and then create the ticket. We can favorite transactions and assign them to other users here, and we can also create custom searches. So I could search based on a property. Say I wanted to search for a specific ID. I can list, add a single one or a list of IDs here. We can search for a bunch of particular transactions people might have been using. Next up, we can do a dashboard. So here I've got a bunch of widgets that are on the dashboard, and I can customize and add my own. So I added the bottom one here. These widgets are click through as well, so we could say click on a widget and it'll go and show you kind of what's happening at the moment, which is quite cool. So nice clickable dashboard there. And then we also have the monitoring capability. So you can see I've actually just had an error flag up in the last 5 minutes or so. So I've got an incident that's currently open. So I think my monitoring that I've set up, and for the video I just set up an extra bit of monitoring. You can see that a couple of transactions took longer than the expected state, and I can go and click through and see kind of how long they took. And these are ones that look like they're still in process, or maybe there are even some errors probably from when I was running the demo a while ago. Um, in the monitoring, we can also do things like duration monitoring, so we can configure how long things have ran for, and if anything's taken too long, that would raise an alert. We can do exception monitoring, so anytime there's an error, we can trigger alerts, and then we can do query monitoring. So if I've had no tickets created yesterday, I could raise an alert for that kind of thing. So there's a number of different ways we can configure the monitoring that would work pretty well. Hopefully that's a good little demo there, and we'll jump back to the slides now. So to summarise, we looked at a number of features today. So with business activity monitoring, we're trying to centralise the management of your business processes and transactions. So instead of having a fragmented model across Azure, if we can have a centralised model where all of your business processes across different departments can be managed securely in one place, we can let users go in and see their processes that they're allowed to access. They can potentially be given the option to self-service, so they can see what's happening. They can potentially reprocess if we allow them to. So our key message is that BAM's not just for logic apps. You can use it for logic apps, but you can use it for other things like API management, and other videos we've looked at Power Automate and Data Factory and a number of other things. By getting the data about what's happening in your business processes into BAM, we open up features like track and trace to make it easy to find what's going on and troubleshoot. We open up action required so that we can see any errors that haven't been resolved yet. We can configure options to repair and resubmit messages if we need to. We have the ability to create dashboards and customize dashboards if we want to create like a single pane of glass view for people to see how that process is performing. We can create monitoring for failures. We can query monitor for things. So, say if our sync process didn't work for a day, how do we alert on that? And we can also alert if things are taking too long to run. So some of the key resources people are using to send data to BAM. So today we looked at API management over here, but there's all these other resources like Logic Apps, BizTalk, Power Automate, etc. that you could use. And also you could use custom stuff. So if you're building an application with .NET, you could send BAM events to our BAM API. You could even do it from something like PowerShell if you're writing a scheduled automation script and you want to let the support team see if that's running and if there was any errors. You could definitely do it from PowerShell if you wanted. So there's quite a lot of options here. You can even use third-party tools, anything where you can send an HTTP message to our BAM API. You can open up the features we've got inside of BAM. Thanks very much for listening today. We'd hope you'd like to come and chat to us more about BAM or some of the other awesome features we have in Serverless 360. Thank you very much for your time.